Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Kahn, and I want to thank the Theosophical Society for hosting this transmission. In this moment, I greet you with love. I meet you as a love, not confined or limited by any particular emotional state. A love that isn't limited to feelings that come and go. A love that exists beyond the perceived boundaries of reward and punishment. A love that just doesn't show up when good things happen. Not a love that we attract from some degree of good fortune, but a love that only knows itself as the one within all. I meet you as the heart-centered remembrance of unity consciousness. So in this moment of heart-centered remembrance, where we remember ourselves as the wholeness of love, the truth of love, the power of love, the oneness of love, it is our ability to give that love to various aspects of ourselves that allows us to be grounded in this earth plane, relaxed and regulated in our nervous system, able to process any degree of unavoidable loss, spontaneous change. And even to face directly the inevitability of death. From a space of freedom that only knows itself. As the eternal light alive in all. And what my invitation is that I offer you is not information about this subject matter. I offer direct access and direct experiences of that which all wisdom teachings point to, helping you stop in this moment in time, spontaneously resting in a space between breaths. Where you can experience in your own direct way a remembrance of your true self. As a love that is equally present in joy as it is in moments of hatred, judgment, and sorrow. A love that expresses itself as acts of service, both to the body it inhabits and to all the characters that appear around you. Never needing to be all things to all people, or trying too hard to overgive, hoping it will cause other people to give to you the power we've unknowingly hid in the pockets of other people. but instead to join with the will of the universe, to merge back into the glory of truth, and to work on the same side of universal will. By lovingly serving your journey and caring for all aspects of self as conscious, brave, and loving acts of service towards yourself. And as an entry point into this new horizon of teachings, it is as if there's a fork in the road. And one side of the fork takes you to the teachings of what has been known and practiced, which will help you explore known realizations. And while that's fine as building blocks to higher realities and higher discoveries, the evidence of your incarnation reminds you that you didn't come here to remember known realizations. You didn't incarnate to re-experience known realities. You were birthed onto this planet as a pioneer of expanding consciousness, here to take this realization of truth and this remembrance of love deeper and more uniquely and more incredibly than anyone else has throughout the span of history and throughout the journey of time. And so the fork in the road can lead you either into where the path has led, and the other more unknown and, dare I say, exciting direction is to take this journey to a level and a place that's never been experienced, explored, or embodied. The way we stay in the known realities by choosing one side in this fork is to constantly embrace teachings or to focus your attention on all the things you wish to stop. Maybe you sense a noisy mind, and so it's your spiritual aspiration to stop the noisy mind. And then you're on a path trying to figure out what I can do to make the noise stop, to make the judgment stop, to make the criticism stop, to make the fear stop. Maybe you're constantly experiencing the orbiting of emotionally patterning. How do I make being triggered by my family stop? How do I make what causes the conflict between me and my partner or my children stop? The old paradigm, which respectfully is becoming more and more of an outdated paradigm, it served its purpose. It brought consciousness to a certain point. But now we need a new bridge to take us out of known realities and to build a bridge into a level of realization, a level of embodiment. Awakening has never dawned in you before. And so it might sound like a simple shift from one side of the fork to the other in the road of realization. But instead of looking at anything as if here's what I need to stop in order for better things to occur, what if I were to so radically say, we don't need to have anything stop. We just need to find the right thing to start. So we don't stop a noisy mind. We don't stop an overactive imagination. We don't stop a controlling ego. We don't stop emotional patterning. We don't stop emotional triggers. We simply find newer, higher realities and choices to start. And when we start making choices at a higher vibration, the patterns at a lower vibration transmute along their own time frame. Not from a place of force, not from a place of aggression, not from a place of coercion, and not from a place of trying to trade up from one experience to a better one. But simply because what the wound needs in order to heal is not for you to try to stop anything about it, but instead for you to start joining with the universe to love and authentically honor, praise, and appreciate all parts of you as the universe always has and as the universe always will be. When we start seeing ourselves through the eyes of Source, we start honoring ourselves as expression of Source. When we honor ourselves as awakened masters who are simply remembering the elaborate journey of coming into an earth, forgetting our true nature only so we have something to remember and recall, realize. You will realize and you will wake up out of the old paradigm respectfully. And we say, thank you, old paradigm. Thank you for giving me a journey that created a great foundation, simply preparing me for this next evolution of my journey, where instead of having many things to stop, I explore the most important things that I have the power to start, such as the power to start loving myself. And when we love ourselves, it doesn't mean we love how any part of us acts or behaves. We don't love having a noisy mind. Instead, we remember that a mind is only as noisy as it yearns to be loved. And since the part of ourselves that use mind, reaction, fear, and limiting beliefs as attention-seeking mechanisms to ask for the very love from us that it simultaneously doesn't feel worthy enough to receive, and is afraid that if it asks directly for the love, it will manifest its greatest fear of asking for what it needs and not being good enough and being rejected in the process. So these parts want to be loved unconditionally. They also don't feel worthy enough of the love they seek and desire. They're also afraid to communicate that love out of the fear of being rejected and confirming how not lovable or worthy they must have been. Otherwise, it would have been given. And so these parts give themselves no other opportunity. Like children who antagonize each other for the attention they're afraid to ask for. These parts within ourselves beg for loving attention, never asking for love directly, because that's too much of a threat to our most unworthy parts. And so they arise as a noisy mind, as inner criticism, as self-judgment, as patterns of fear, as needing to define your life by a series of gains, believing you're the most aligned in consciousness when you can maximize gains and minimize losses. All the while, most likely looking at your life, no matter what degree of ego lens you're interpreting through. But when we're looking through a lens of ego, we believe that better things can't begin until other things have been stopped. And so if you want to know the density of ego consciousness, we're only as densely attached to ego to the degree of how many things in our life we're working hard to stop. And if you stop trying to stop anything, even just internally right now as an experience, what would it be like spontaneously if right now together we took a bold step and the only thing we stopped is we stop believing anything in us needs to be stopped before better experiences can begin. What if you said these words out loud? Even if there are things I believe need to be stopped. What if I were to stop believing that stopping anything in motion would bring any degree of relief? When relief is truly rooted in not what we try to stop, but that which we dare to start. So as an inquiry, and you can probably feel the light and presence intensifying right now. What is it like to sit here? And even if there are parts of you that insist on what needs to be stopped or changed, what if we just allowed that to be without joining in that belief campaign? And we sit like a Buddha under the Bodhi tree. No longer trying to stop anything. When we have simply been given time on this planet to decide the most important things, we will dare to start. And so instead of trying to stop your mind, we can start loving the mind that begs for a love it's afraid it's not worthy enough to receive. So if the mind is noisy, we can simply just touch our head and say, I love you. I know you're just asking for my loving attention, and I'm here with you. I love you. And whether you can receive this, whether it bounces off the defense mechanisms, just so you have more things to seek and chase, that's okay. I love you, mind. I love you with all my heart. I seek not to stop you, but only to start loving you more often. And we go down to the heart. With nothing to stop, we say to the heart, I love you, heart. I love you, body. I love you, emotions. I love you, organs. Knowing that saying I love you is a way of saying I give you the attention of the universe. I praise the value of how you serve me, and I serve you by acknowledging you through the truth, power, and light of unity consciousness. I honor your power. I see your truth. I acknowledge the value you bring in my life, and I serve you as you serve me. All of that is what it means when we say, I love you. So we say to the body, to the heart, to the emotions, to the organs, I love you. Thank you so much for serving me. I serve you with love. I love you. Knowing I don't have to love how it feels in the body. I don't have to love having emotions, and yet they're here. I don't have to love the complication of how the body ebbs and flows, and yet it's here. It's here not for us to find something to stop about it, but to come upon this moment of remembrance and revelation so we actually do the one thing we incarnated to do, which is dare to find more meaningful things to start. Instead of being distracted with all the things the ego thinks it needs to stop. And of course, the ego thinks it needs to stop so many things because that's what keeps it swirling in avoidance. And as soon as the ego has no way to avoid the truth begins waking up within the ego. And the ego begins dissolving, not as a death, but as a rebirth. And so in the new spiritual paradigm, it's not about having no ego. It's about having an integrated ego, an ego that has been reborn and recreated as an expression of consciousness instead of a reflection of a painful past or as a mechanism of your familial conditioning. And even when you hear that and think, I should stop my familial conditioning so I have less time for suffering and more time for pleasure. And of course, because life is created by divine timing, there's always exactly the right amount of our lives that have already been created for the exact amount of pain and pleasure that allows us to realize our life's destiny, to awaken in consciousness, and to find more meaningful things to start instead of being distracted by the things maybe only you think need to be stopped. And what's so fascinating about self-love is the more we love ourselves, what stops is believing in the voice of what needs to be stopped. So we don't stop the voice that says, stop this. We just stop identifying with it. We stop funding it. We stop supporting it. Always offering the support of love without needing to offer the support of belief. Because in the new spiritual paradigm, it's not about what we stop, it's about what we start. So we go back to the body. As we start loving it, even if you've always experienced or have already experienced self-love, let this moment be an opportunity for you to start loving yourself more authentically and more meaningfully, even than you did a moment before in this transmission. Let this breath be a brand new incarnation. And every moment of self-love you've experienced in the past has simply prepared you to love and meet yourself as never before. And to live on the edge, where human suffering is when there are endless things for you to stop. Where liberation is when you see a reality where there are only new things to start. And the more we start loving ourselves authentically, the more all the things that we think we needed to stop start to transform on their own. Because when we change our relationship with ourselves, we awaken to a higher consciousness. And as we awaken to a higher consciousness, the consciousness within our bodies start to remember it has the power to heal itself and to transform and expand into a reborn expression of divinity instead of being an animated reflection of a painful past. But we reconcile the past by loving it, because love is something we start, not something that needs to occur by anything else being stopped. And so back to the body we go. I love you. Even if that is not authentic for you to say, you can say, may I learn to love you as you deserve to be loved. Can you say at least that? If you can't love, maybe that doesn't feel authentic. Maybe you have a history of people saying loving words but doing unkind things, or being betrayed or hurt by the people you love the most. So maybe we have to just be more honest and say, may I develop the ability to love myself more authentically, and let it be an aspiration. Because linguistically, an aspiration and an affirmative statement is the same thing. To say, may I learn how to love myself more often, is actually the same energy that your subconscious drinks in when you say, I love you. Because when you say, may I learn to love myself more authentically, you're simply recruiting the universe to work through you and teach you how, or to help you facilitate loving yourself. So it's not just on your shoulders. It's a co-creative, collaborative effort between you and the universe. So if you hear me saying, I love you to yourself, and you just can't go there, that doesn't mean you're failing this. It just means we have to find a different starting point. So we can say, may I learn to love myself more authentically than ever before. Or you can even say, universe, thank you for loving me on my behalf. There's always a starting point. And love cannot be engaged from anything other than the purity of truth and honesty. We can't love from within a fantasy, for it is the truth of love that awakens us from hiding in fantasies, where we're able to see that the fear of life is not finding a fantasy big enough to hide from it, but that the fear that we carry within us is because we're hiding in fantasy instead of interacting with reality. And the minute we shift from no longer trying to stop, instead finding more meaningful things to start, that shift brings us out of fantasy and into reality. We can love ourselves authentically, whether it's I love you, whether it's teach me how to love you better, whether it's I intend to learn how to love myself better, whether it's one day I will love myself, or universe, please work through me and show me how to love myself the way I never have been able to before. What's your starting point? Because if we're going to focus on new things to start and not old things to stop, we have to establish a starting point. So where's the starting point that's most meaningful for you? And even if it's just sitting here, having never explored before, retiring from having so many things to stop, maybe for you, it's an in-between step of like, okay, I'll get to starting loving myself, but let me just take in this moment of liberation where perhaps for the first time, I've been given permission to not think that anything needs to be stopped and to feel how exhilarating and how relieving and how expansive it is when we stop thinking that anything needs to stop. Maybe the most loving thing we can do is just rest in retirement from constant stopping. Nothing needs to be stopped. But there are very incredible things that need to start. And as far more insightful things start and expand throughout your life and expand throughout the lives of the collective, the vibration of love spreads throughout this planet so incredibly that instead of having bad things to stop, those insidious crimes against humanity that disempowers innocence instead of uplifting and preserving it, those egregious patterns, that predatorial behavior ceases to exist. Because the vibration of love will be elevated throughout so many hearts on this planet that there's just no more energetic support for atrocity to be funded into form. So sometimes it can be very distracting when you hear about self-love and you go, I'm going to love myself when so many people in the world are suffering. But when we understand from a quantum level that we are one, the more we start loving ourselves, the more we increase the likelihood that other people will start loving themselves. And the more people on this planet that are starting and engaging in the practice of self-love, the less and less people there are to try to stop something. And in that spaciousness of loving, with no need to control, an energy of surrender comes to life on this planet, which allows all manifestations of division, conflict, and predatorial behavior to start dissolving. And of course, if you see something right in front of your eyes that you can affect, if there's a life of someone you can save, of course, always be a citizen of this planet and be an advocate to anyone's inner child who might be in peril or danger, of course. What I'm teaching and transmitting is not a form of bright-siding or bypassing. It is simply knowing everything that we can do on the vibrational level and how transforming our relationships with our emotional body and allowing each day to be a day where we start to love from a new level instead of having anything to stop. That shift is not only the shift that awakens your consciousness, that accelerates your healing and returns you to the remembrance of wholeness, but it is your single greatest contribution to creating an energetic field on this planet where hearts can be healed instead of hurt by the unprocessed pain of another. So it's not just liberating you, but it's transforming the vibrational platitude of an entire planet. A planet that will be governed by the consciousness we are spreading throughout it at the rate at which we find insightful things to start instead of looking for other things to stop. So let's go through this experience, and we can use whatever words are most meaningful for you, whatever the starting point is. It's always perfect and appropriate for exactly where you're at. And so we go to the mind. And what I would suggest is when you start your morning, greet your mind this way, because we don't just want to love our minds when they're noisy, because then the mind learns, oh, I'm only loved when I'm noisy. So then there's a secondary gain to always being noisy. So whether we know it's noisy or not, we just greet the mind like a parent greeting their child. Hello, my beautiful mind. Because the more complimentary you speak to your mind, the more it acts like a genius and less like a nuisance. Hi, beautiful mind. I love you. I aspire to love you. Please teach me how to love you. Universe, thank you for working through me and loving my mind the way I never have or could. And greet yourself authentically. Then we go down to our heart. Hello, my gorgeous heart. My gorgeous heart that the more it's praised and complimented and loved, acts more like an artist. And less like a swirling mess of emotions. We say to our heart, thank you for serving me. I love you. I'm here with you. I aspire to love you. Universe, please work through me and help me love my heart the way it's never been loved. And even to our egos, which we don't even have to locate. We can just say, hello, dear ego. I see you. I love you. You're safe. In whatever words is most authentic for you. Even if you were to say so honestly to your ego, hey, ego, I can't stand you at all, but I know you're only here to be loved. If you said that to your ego, like a child, your child on the inside would laugh and smile and say, now I can trust you. Because that's honest. And like children that exist outside of us, the children existing in our hearts are ever resilient. Children are resilient and can always adjust to change as long as it's being introduced to them with bold compassion and honesty. So obviously, maybe you wouldn't say it to your actual child, but if you said to the child in your heart, God, I can't stand this experience at all, but I know you're only here to be loved. Ego, please teach me how to love you. In that one statement, you will earn the trust of your ego And instead of it trying to micromanage and protect you, it starts to serve you as if you are its consciousness, which you are. So as we truly learn to love our egos start to see us as its source and honors us in devotion as its source when we deliver to our egos an authenticity of love that only source can offer. Hello, my beautiful mind. Hello, my gorgeous heart. Good morning, my outrageous ego. Hello, beloved universe. I am here. I'm here to serve your will. Thank you for allowing me to serve yours. What may I do to bring more of your love and light to this planet? Please show me more meaningful things to start while in the process of releasing and forgetting there's anything to stop. And from this kind of transmission and the way I'm giving you a direct experience, we find that self-love is the doorway to awakening the remembrance of oneness and spreading the purity of unity consciousness within ourselves and throughout the planet. And the more we look at our paths from a constructive standpoint, instead of from a deconstructive standpoint, there are always exciting choices to be made. There are always new ways to learn how to love yourself. And you realize that the state of your emotional body, your physical body, your energetic body, and as it ripples out, the state of the world can be transformed to the degree of how much more meaningfully you learn to love yourself. Not trying to love yourself from a state of perfection, not trying to love yourself to prove something to yourself, and not trying to love yourself as if it's an emotional fire extinguisher extinguishing the flames of discomfort. No, we love ourselves because we have been with ourselves long enough on this journey to know how much love we truly deserve and desire. And only the you who have survived every moment of your life knows exactly how much love you deserve. And we are learning here to be that space, to be the open space where love can move through you and into you. And even if you don't feel like you're in a place where you can love yourself, you can always say, like a repeat after me, dear beloved universe, please allow me to be a space where unconditional love can flow and be embodied as a gift for myself and for blessings of liberation for those around me. And with that intention, it's not solely on your shoulders. You're simply allowing yourself to be a space where love flows through. But no matter what direction you come from, fundamentally, your ability to deepen self-love and to see self-love as the most powerful and potent agent to transform reality from the inside out. Fundamentally, that exciting, ever-revealing path begins with one choice. And that is waking up of having anything to stop, to realize the simplest things that you have the power to start. And by being in harmony with time, we just simply start making new, loving, compassionate, empowering choices one day at a time. Doesn't matter if each day is filled with 5 quantum leaps forward or 1 tiny step forward, or even the intention that today's pause will lead to another step forward tomorrow. Meeting yourself wherever you're at. But as long as we're looking at things to start instead of what needs to stop, we are now waking up out of unconsciousness. We are now choosing to move through the fork in the road of realization along the new spiritual paradigm. Where we are remembering the beauty of our own eternal power. A power to transform the fabric of reality through our ability to start loving more meaningfully. The light of consciousness represents the purity of love. The purity of love is the celebration that we are one, even though we are celebrating this oneness in like a movie where many appear, but only one exists. Allowing that remembrance of oneness to be so palpable and animated throughout your awareness, not by how hardcore you study, not by how skillful you become as a meditator, not by all the one-liners you can remember and recite, but by how nobly, authentically you dare to start loving yourself with more meaning and authenticity than ever before. This is a transmission of consciousness. This is an invitation to awaken. This is your opportunity to awaken from the prison of stop, to be reborn as a sovereign person who embraces the power to start living more meaningfully, to start living more lovingly, to start living more sustainably, to start living more honorably, to start living more freely. And from my heart to yours, as we find less things to stop and more things to start, may love find its way into your heart, expanding the awakening that is already in progress, that this transmission has deepened. Or instead of being a person in search of love or in search of truth, you remember yourself even just sitting here right now. Not a person in search of love or in search of truth, but the truth of life dressed up as a person, remembering the love that they are, knowing they incarnated to remember love so deeply, so to watch it transform the world in view. Just to remember how powerful your love is and shall always be. You are the truth of life. You are the light of one. You are the love of all. It is you who I serve. That I am now. I love you. Thank you.